Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Titans. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, the Titans are dealing with the aftermath of, losing Hulk. And obviously Connor's beating himself up the most because he's like, right, it's on me. It's like Superman would have never failed, but the fact of the matter is I've got this like, oh, I'm a freak. I'm part Lex Luthor, and they're like, no, but he kind of says like, no, like you finally all got what you wanted. Like the Lex Luthor side of me kind of, I guess it's like they leaned into it, and I guess he was almost just lashing out, almost being like, you expected the worst of me because of the Lex Luthor side of things, and look, that Lex side won because the worst possible thing happened, and because of me, like Hank is dead, and he's lashing out at Gar, which Gar does sadly have to be the like glue to kind of keep everyone together. He's always kind of taking care of everyone else and not really taking care of himself, because it is the thing of almost like, right, he's kind of being there for everyone else but himself. I mean, it's like, right, no one's really constantly checking on him like he's checking in on other people. But then there's the conversation between Dawn and Connor, and she's like, it's okay, and he's like, no, I couldn't save him, and she's like, no, but we tried. She's like, if anything, it's my fault. I'm the one that pulled the trigger. But he's like, but we were supposed to. And she's like, yeah, and we tried, but we just couldn't. And she's saying, like, that's not on you. And so she ends up leaving because it's, she's like, I wish I had put up the cape. Hank wanted to put it up. And she's like, before I told you about, being the whole Batman situation. And it's just like, for her, she's thinking Dick should do the same thing. Like, it's like we see what Bruce finally had to like give up the cape, but even then it's like maybe it was way too late, and Hank didn't even want to pick up the mantle anymore, but because of me, so that's just making her feel even more guilt over it. It's like there has to be another way of life beyond this. Like we can't just like keep doing the superhero thing forever, because it will eventually get us and the people around us killed. It's just like going at the way we're going, won't solve anything. But even now, like, with everything going on, Dick can't, he can't stop now until Jason. And it's like, well, what are you going to do when you get Jason? It's like, because it's like up until now, like, Deathstroke messed us all up, but none of us are killers except for him. And she's like, speak for yourself. So, ultimately, Dick decided to stay, and obviously he gets the call about Red Hood sending someone to beat the crap out, well, not just beat the crap out, but almost kill Jonathan Crane. So it's like he's being transferred to Blackgate, but Dick shows up and ends up like busting him out. And I was confused at first. I was like, why is he doing that? And it seems like, and I'm not sure how long Dick knew. Like maybe he just figured it out in between episodes. Maybe something sparked inside of him. Maybe he had some inkling, but maybe the drive there is what solidified it, because certain things came out during that conversation. He was bringing up like, oh, look how skilled you are. And you kept seeing Dick kind of look at him like trying to figure out like how much does he really know? Because that was something I went into the season wondering, did he know about Dick being, like, I thought he was talking to Dick from the perspective of, like, he had already known Dick Grayson, because, like, oh, I know you're Robin, a.k.a. now Nightwing, but it's, like, it turns out, like, it turns out he actually did know, because he is the one behind everything, which I figured he would be. He seems like the manipulative type, especially this whole conversation about fear. Maybe that's actually what sparked it inside of him. Maybe that conversation about hearing that conversation between Dawn and him about like fear and everything, and knowing what fear's relation is to not only just Crane but also to Bruce, that maybe that's what sparked it in his mind. Like I said, maybe he wasn't 100% sure, but even partway through the drive, like, you have Crane bringing up the fact is of like, oh yeah, heard about Hulk, and it's like, why would you bring that up? Like, why would you, like, because that's the thing, like, he obviously knew, because it's like, why would you bring up Hulk? Like, yeah, he's some hero, like, what would make you decide to bring him up with me, unless that you poking at the fact is that you do know, but he's trying to poke at some weaknesses, because he's trying to poke at, like, oh, I know you're in a vulnerable state right now. Even Barbara's saying, like, oh, like, Dick lost a very, important a friend of his, and now he's acting emotionally. But it's like Barbara's like, return him, and return to Crane and everything, but he's like, I can't, gotta go. But like I said, I'm curious, at what point did he figure it out. Like, I think a lot of those conversations in the car probably like led to him piecing it together. Like whereas he might have been like 50 or 60% sure after those conversations, he was probably more like 90 or 100% sure that I was about to call him Ichabod Crane, that Crane was behind all of this. Scarecrow was. So I thought that's kind of fascinating. But especially, I mean, like I said, like, I don't know how much of like Hawk's death was like publicized. I mean, it's not like they knew Hawk was in Gotham. I mean, he showed up after the Titans already rolled up into Gotham, so. But it's also like to bring up Hulk in front of Dick is like you have to know that he's Nightwing or something like that. So Robin and I gotta call him Robin. Jeez, Dick ends up bringing him to a place that Bruce used to bring him. It's like a special set of woods. He's like, yeah, Bruce let me out here by myself alone, and he's like, I didn't know what was out there. But I do love that like Crane tried to run away, and then just as he's unlocking the gate, Dick just kind of has a smirk on his face. I guess the whole place is booby-trapped because it's supposed to be like, I guess, training. It's supposed to be like a training ground, so like it's probably always been booby-trapped. And it's probably like both... I'm curious, did Barbara ever have to go through that? It definitely seems like Dick and Tim did, but I assume she had to go through the same training they did, but maybe they got it rougher. Because it seems like she kind of talks about being kind of messed up, but it doesn't seem like she's as messed up as Dick and... Jason are. So maybe she didn't get the brunt of it like they did. She probably still did, but it's always that complicated thing of like that, you know, the psychology behind it, where it's like when it comes to like an abusive parent, that sometimes one child or maybe two might get it more than others. So like I said, like maybe Barbara didn't get it as much as like Jason or Dick did, but I like I said, I still think she screwed up in her own regard, but I feel like Dick and Jason are a lot more screwed up. But hell, even Crane was like, oh, like, that kid came to me, he was broken, like, I didn't do anything to him, I tried to fix him. That father of yours already, like, tried to, like, your father already did enough damage to him, that kid came to me broken. And he brings up this metaphor about being on a hamster wheel that basically we're all kind of retreading the footsteps of our fathers. He's like, yeah, I became who I became because of my father, just like you. And he's talking about the fact is that the thing is, we think that if we could go down that same path that we can do things differently, but in the end, we just end up retreading the same path. So it's like, no matter how much you want to stray off on your own, you still follow Batman's path. You still continue down the route of becoming a hero. Even if you became your own hero, you're still following in your father's footsteps to a certain extent, you know? And then there's that conversation about, you know, fear. Using fear to expose your weakness and then use that as your strength. That's something that Bruce instilled all of them. Like, as someone who had the messed up childhood that he is, like, you know, that Bruce did, he needed to take that fear and weaponize it, and he figured it made him stronger, for better or for worse. He decided to do the same thing for others. He thought turning his fear into a weapon, he thought it'd be the way to heal others, but it wasn't. It wasn't the proper, like, he just screwed everybody up even more, so... But this whole thing was Dick's plan to, like, draw Jason in. It's like, oh, like, of course Jason's going to come. Like, he no matter what, being Red Hood or whatnot, Jason is still Jason. He's going to, like, come barging in full steam ahead to come and rescue his mentor, the person that he feels like made him stronger after everything. Because he was someone that was trying so hard to not be afraid, but that fear was creeping in, and it's just... I think it is the thing of him not wanting to be afraid anymore kind of made him the way, like, just to kind of stick it to Bruce, but also to prove, like, something to himself. Because even Crane was saying that about Dick. It's like, oh, you're trying to prove yourself to your father, which, you know, Dick is like, yeah, like, I shouldn't have been afraid of the wolf. The wolf should have been afraid of me. Because he's like, what I, like, you know... He grew from that experience because it's like, right, like, he killed the wolf, literally slit its head... cut its head off and presented it almost like a trophy to Bruce, which is all messed up in it. Like, any therapist could have a field day with that, but I don't know. It's interesting how how it is the thing that he resents Bruce so much, but he has ended up becoming so much like him. But that's also the conversation of like, right, what about the kids around you? What about Slade's son? What about Rachel? Like, how many people do you have to draw in around you, much like Bruce, and hurt them? Because your way of doing things isn't good, because you're just perpetuating like what Bruce taught you. It's just this endless cycle of pain and trying to you're just hurt, like it just leads to more people getting hurt because of it. So, but for Dick, it's about ending all of this. So he goes toe to toe with Jason, and honestly, he whoops Jason's ass. It's like, regardless of anything, like Jason's got some of the training, but even Jason's making a point like, oh, you fight just like Bruce. But it's like, yeah, he whoops that ass pretty, like it's pretty one-sided for until like Jason kind of gets the upper hand near the end of the fight. It's like, I feel like Dick was like literally kicking his ass. But then like Barbara and them track down his movements. But I guess because the way that place is set up, it's like that's the reason why their cameras weren't that good. I mean, hell, like Scarecrow tried to run away, but there was like an invisible field there, so it's probably like some signal jamming stuff in the area, so their camera couldn't get a clear view. So when the guy was taking a shot at Red Hood, he ended up hitting Nightwing in the process, and that allowed Jason to escape with Crane. If I'm assuming he gets away with him. So it is interesting to see. I'm curious, how will he handle this though? Like, I don't know if he had any plans of killing Jason, or was it just, I'm gonna bring you the justice for what you've done. Like, you're not gonna get away. Like, you have to pay the price for what you've done. Like the death and destruction that's followed because of you. Not just Hank. Hank's just one of many victims. It's like, maybe for Dick, it's like, I'm not going to save you anymore. But even like Jason being like, you did this to me. It's like, no, you made your own choices. Even I'm like, but I guess it's like, you kind of drew me in. You made me think that things were, I guess it's like, you kind of made me think that things were going to be different with you. And it just ended up being the same. And just, I walked away even more broken. Hell, because of you, I try to leave. But even then, like, I can't escape this like cycle of abuse and just craziness, because like I still came back to Bruce anyway. Like, despite everything, I came back. So I guess for him, it's like, you could have saved me, you could have helped me, but you didn't. You just made things worse. And it's just because Dick's doing the same thing. He still isn't fully fixed and dealt with everything, with all his underlying issues with Bruce. And so like, how can I fix it? How can I fix and help you when I'm still broken in my own way too? I mean, everyone on this team is broken in their own ways, and they just, but, it's kind of like what Hank was saying, like, right, we went through the trouble of building this family together to kind of compensate, I think, to heal each other, and it's like, Hank's death did just end up breaking the team up apart. Like, obviously, they're at each other. Connor is tearing himself apart for what happened, and, obviously, Starfire is going through what she's going through this episode, but we'll get to that soon enough, but, I'm curious, like, was his plan just simply to arrest Jason and, because I think it's past the point of trying to save him anymore, but now he's out there potentially with Scarecrow, like, what that's going to amount to, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But like I said, the other side of things, we have Corey, like, going deeper off over the edge. It's like, okay, what's going on with her? She's sleepwalking, she's having these dreams, and, there was interesting because she calls up that therapist dude, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay. You're dealing with something. It's like, it's very human." The moment he said that, I was like, ironically, she's not human. Even she immediately was like, "Yeah, but that's the point. I'm not human." Like, because like it's like the way you're acting, like what's happening right now is a very normal human reaction, but it's like, I'm not human, so this shouldn't be happening to me. But it turns out there's a lot more going on. Obviously, she turns to Gar for help, and Gar's like, "Okay, I can help you," because Rachel kind of dealt with visions as well. But it's like the moment she like took time to like fully understood him, she finally understood what was going on. So he was trying to put her in a kind of a chamber to kind of give into the dreams and figure out what was going on. But the moment she did, and she turns and she sees a reflection of her sister, I was like, oh, so this is so what you're seeing isn't your memories, it's Blackfire. I was like, that's interesting, because I was wondering, like, yeah, we haven't seen her since the season 2 finale, and like the stinger of the season 2 finale, and I'm like, where's she at? Oh, she's been captured. Because the moment she made her presence known on this planet, they were like, oh, you're a danger? So basically there's a special government agency that just locked her up. It's like, the dude's running it, it's like, yo, I I'm the only one who runs things. Like it's a specialized place of like anytime this group does this, they like look after one person at a time. So I'm sure there's other people looking after other. I don't know if that was him referencing like, oh, this is the only person we're looking after in general, or there might be other facilities that are looking after one person at a time. Like it's basically a specialized jail just for Blackfire. But I do love that Starfire like broke free. Apparently at some point attacked Gar as he tried to like help her and like punched him in the eye and basically kidnapped him. So he's just kind of like, and once again, it's that thing of like, screw you guys. Like, I'm done helping all of you. I'm tired of being like the one helping everyone else. What about, he doesn't talk about it, but it's like, what about me? Like, I've got my own issues. Like, here I am, like, trying to help everyone else. I mean, maybe in his own right, Gar thinks by doing that, maybe he'll kind of fill whatever void he's trying to fill. Like, I think everyone's trying to fill some void. Like I said, everyone on this team is broken in their own way. I think they have taken like leaps and bounds to repairing themselves, but I still think there are a few cracks there. But they end up finding the facility down below. But like the dude's like, oh my god, Starfire, I'm a huge fan. You too, Beast Boy. And I think Gar probably appreciates it. Oh, right. Oh, I get some love. It's like, oh, there's some love for Beast Boy. So Corey ends up talking to Blackfire. And obviously her sister's like resentment. It's like almost like everything I've ever done, all that I am is because of you. Like anytime anything went wrong, what did our parents do? They punished me. It's like, yeah, but like, she's like, you do something, we were children, you misbehave or whatever you get. She was referencing something else, but her sister was like, no, it was a pit. It was pretty much a prison. The fact of the matter is I would always get tossed in there like that's all I've ever experienced in my life. And I think that still plays in very much to like Blackfire and Starfire's like relationship, not just in the show, but just in general. At least once again, I'm just basing that purely on my only experience with that relationship. I don't know it from the comics. I know it from the like original Teen Titans show. And obviously I know a little bit from like Teen Titans Go, but it is a whole thing of like jealousy. It's like, you are special. Because that also reminds me of the first time she popped up in Teen Titans and she calls like, because remember that whole conversation of like, oh, Blackfire calls Starfire, like, it's like something, and it's like, oh, what does that mean? And she's like, nothing. And they thought like, oh, it meant like nothing as like, it doesn't mean anything, but it's like, no, it means that Blackfire was calling Starfire nothing. And it's kind of interesting because I think this might be a little bit more of an inverse of that relationship, or maybe that's what it is. Like Blackfire's jealousy of just kind of like, oh, you're the golden child. Maybe that's always why she had to look down upon her sister. Maybe in certain continuities, Blackfire's kind of the golden child and just looked down upon her pathetic sister Starfire. But in this inverse, like I said, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe what's happening here in Titans is typically the case of like, right, Starfire's the golden child and Blackfire's always been kind of the black sheep of the family. Because it's like, what about all the people you've murdered? But even Blackfire was like, what about you? You came here to kill a girl. And she's like, well, I'm not that person anymore. And I'm sure that pisses Blackfire off even more. It's like, right, you get to just come here and reinvent yourself. It's easy just to forget about everything that you've done and just kind of move on. But I'm the one stuck with the scars from everything. Like, I hate you so much because you are why I am who I am. Like, it's not fair that you get to just be free and be okay. Like, because you took from me first before I took from you. I only took because in retaliation. It's just very complicated sister relationship. It's a very strong love-hate relationship. Mainly hate that they have. But regardless of everything, Corey just couldn't leave her sister here because it's like, right, I failed you in the past. I was so caught up in my own stuff that I didn't realize that you were hurting. I didn't pay attention to what you were feeling. So it's like, right, I did leave you in the pit. And it's like, despite everything you do, you are my sister at the end of the day. And I wasn't there for you when you needed me. Like, if I had been, I think maybe this is also stemming from like, right, what's happening with Jason. Like, if we had been there for Jason, he wouldn't have turned into the monster that he is now. So maybe Starfire is applying a lot of that of like, right, like I'm doing the exact same thing and we see what happened to Jason. Fine. And she ends up breaking her sister out. And the dude's like, please don't do this. Like, she has to stay here. It's like, get out of my way or I'm gonna burn your dick off. He's like, you don't even have enough of your powers yet. She's like, do you really want to test that? And so they bounce. And it's like, well, if you leave, like, the government's not going to take responsibility. She's going to be your responsibility. Like, she always is. So they kind of leave with her. And in the car, she's like, oh, your car smells. And it's just like, all right, you're already in here complaining. We came here we rescued you. We could have just left you here. Just almost kind of like, just shut up, Blackfire. Just shut up. And it's just like, all right, here we go. So I guess bringing her back to Gotham with them, it's going to definitely be interesting. because I don't think she's always played the role of a villain. I think she can I think she can be a hero sometimes. It's interesting because I think they had set her up to be it still could play into that, but I think she's supposed to be the main antagonist of this season, or at least I heard that. I haven't read that. I think someone had said that, but maybe not, because I have seen like some thumbnails and pictures with her with the Titans, so I'm wondering if she's playing more of that hero role, then eventually like she's doing stuff behind the scenes, doing the villainous stuff, or what. I'm curious to see where things kind of go with Blackfire. Like, will they have a repeat of the Jason thing, or can Starfire will now be enough of a time to change things? It's going to be interesting, because maybe with Blackfire there, maybe that'll change how they approach the whole Jason thing. Maybe not. It's definitely going to be interesting to see ultimately where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.